Hello. So today's live, I was going to share something I wrote a while back earlier this year. But basically, it's about what sign language interpreters can learn, or well, what sign language interpreters can teach accountants. So, what accountants can learn from sign language interpreters. And I wrote this, like I said, earlier this year because I felt like I kept just talking about it, and so I decided, like, you know what? Let me just like actually put this down into essay format. So I have my thoughts together on this so I can better share it in a more cohesive way. And yeah, and then I kind of didn't really do anything with it. I just have it. So I decided, why not share it on here? Because I've, like I said, run out of ideas. Like I have my long list of ideas, but none of them are really like hitting or resonating. Like I don't want to share those. I already shared some, but the rest I'm like, don't really feel like it. So let's talk about this instead. So I'm gonna pull my notes over. Let's see. All right. So it's like a three-part series. I told you I have a lot of thoughts, um, but move this over here. Let's see. Okay. So it starts off like I said, it's literally like an essay. I'm trying not to like read it through or sound like I'm reading, but I'm just gonna go through it. So basically, like part one of this series is preparing for client information. And so I structured this as like when I did sign language interpreting, um, there was like before the assignment what you did, and then during the assignment, what you did, and then after the assignment. So I sort of structure like this series is the same format. So like before the assignment, during the assignment, and after the assignment, and applying it to like how accountants work with their clients. So part one is preparing for clear client communication. So before the assignment starts, what like how that applies to client work. And so I start this whole thing off just by saying, at a recent accounting conference, I heard two familiar complaints. Clients don't provide the information we need, and the same clients don't understand what accountants do or why it even matters. And to me, those both hit at just like the same underlying problem. There's a communication gap. And as someone who worked as an ASL interpreter before becoming a bookkeeper, before becoming an accountant, I've been trained to see communication gaps that others might miss. And so interpreting taught me that successful communication is about what's actually understood, and real comprehension takes work to achieve. So it's not just something that happens. Like there's preparation involved. Like really skillful communicators know this. And as someone who's been frustrated at having my words misunderstood, misinterpreted, communication is incredibly important to me. And I almost obsessively prioritize clarity so clients don't have the same experience as me. At least that's the goal. Um, and then I kind of go in, I like introduce like the three parts of the series, like what to expect. And then I'm going to go into preparing for clear communication. And so, like, the core concept here is just that preparing creates the conditions for effective communication. Um, when I was in an interpreting program, like learning from my instructors, they emphasize that as professional communication success is it rests on us mainly. Like it's our job, and so like for every assignment that guided what I did, and even now like it guides my work as a bookkeeper. And so like that's why I call it like this before the job phase. It's like before you even like get with the client or whoever you're talking to, you need to prep beforehand and create the conditions for clear communication and understanding. Um, and so in this, I give like an example from like my interpreting days. And so uh, as an interpreter, like before the job, like I would sometimes literally physically prep, like, and not just this like signing practice, but also like the space. Like, we have to physically set up the environment for good communication. So sometimes I would interpret in like college classrooms, conferences, and so or even doctor's office, medical appointments, like smaller spaces. But I would have to make sure that I was able to get in a position where the deaf client could see me and I could see them clearly, where I was like the hearing person can hear me clearly and I can hear them clearly. So sometimes I would literally rearrange the room, like move chairs around, ask the speaker if I could stand, if it was fine for me to stand in a certain place, because sometimes it wasn't. So we had to like adjust a bit. But yeah, so sometimes it was physically setting up the environment for clear communication. And so for accounting, um, the important environment setup usually happens during onboarding. That's like the starting point when we work for clients. And really before that, but I would say onboarding is like that official starting point. And so that's when their clients are most engaged, receptive, you're going to solve their problem, they're ready. That's the perfect time to set up these communication foundations. So what I like to do, my philosophy is to leverage that initial enthusiasm to just gather everything I need for smooth future interactions. And so I have like a checklist, and it's gone through so many iterations. And I wouldn't even say it's like super long. I feel like I've seen longer for talking lengthwise, but it's pretty comprehensive. The checklist I have, and it's gone through all these changes because I adjust it based on like experience, like what happens and realizing like, oh, something needs to be added or something needs to be changed. So it's not just like getting contact information, but it's like all the documents we need, access credentials that I need to get, and then even have like instructions for giving me access for certain like softwares or websites. Like so and again it's like because I like to be like super prepared. I feel like it's not super long, because there are some things that maybe I haven't come across yet, so it's not made affected the list. But I try to make it as broad as possible. Okay, so through my experience, like I mentioned, I've learned that frontlining all the stuff that we have to do, it's just really helpful. It cuts down on like requests later on when like the client already thinks everything's smooth and fine and going well. It cuts down on me having to like ask something that sort of disrupts that like flow of like everything's good. Like because they've moved on, like they're focusing on other things. And so clear communication about why I need things from them helps them understand why I'm being so thorough, why it's such a long checklist. So even though it feels like a lot, yeah, but it saves them time in the long run. And if you watch my other live, you know, like I think about like what can we do now to make later easier. So maybe it's a lot now, but I'd rather just take care of it now and have to do it later. Like I need things to get easier over time and like to compound the benefits, like interest. So yeah, so once you set that environment well, then the next step is to assess their preferences. And let's see, what did I mean by preference? Oh, yes, preferences. So the example from my interpreting days about this is like communication style. So, uh, first of all, there's no universal sign language. Like they have tried to create one, like like universal spoken language. I forget what that one's called. The word that popped in my head was like in song too. It's not that. But anyway, so they've made one, but it's not like a natural sign language that was developed. Like naturally, different groups of deaf people develop their own like sign language, just like spoken language. Each area has its own language. So there's different sign languages, and then even within the same area, there's different like dialects, accents, preferences. Just like spoken language, there's like North and South U.S. they speak differently. Even in one state, different areas speak a little differently. So it's the same with like deaf people. And so part of my job as an interpreter was to uh, assess their communication style. Like, how do they, what words do they prefer to use? Because I wanted to make sure that what I was communicating was as clear as possible. So before assignments, I'd engage in casual conversation just to observe how they prefer to speak. And their specific interpreting specifics I was looking for in their communication, like do they prefer signs in more English order, more ASL, mouthing words while signing? Do they prefer that? Sometimes just straight up ask too, but sometimes it's obvious. You could just see it. And so that helps me match the style, what they want, if they got any unique uh, like vocabulary, things I could ask about just to get more clarity before the actual assignment started. That way, the assignment could go as smoothly as possible. And so, how this applies to accounting is assessing maybe not their preferences, but like what do they understand about accounting, and what's their priorities for like working together. Because there might be things that I think are important, but you want to know like what's their priority. That way, you want to make sure you meet those expectations so they feel this was worth it. So during conversations, I listen carefully to like how they're describing their financial situation. Like, are they even using accounting terminology? Because that means they do have some level of knowledge about it, which is good. That lets me know like how much I can go into things or how much I need to explain. Um, and then, are they mostly focused on like just getting their stuff done for taxes, compliance, or are they more focused like future, like profitability? Or do they just want to get organized? Like a lot of my clients just come to me and say like they just feel all over the place, like just so disorganized that it's just causing anxiety. And so and that one is kind of related to being ready for taxes too, but it's its own thing. I just assess like where are they right now, what's going on, and then uh let's see. Oh, in this next paragraph, I kind of say like sometimes they do want more, like they want to learn more about the numbers, and others don't care. Just make sure it's taken care of. I don't even care. So just knowing that too, because if they want to know more, I would give them more. If they don't, I just give like I won't say minimum, but just what they need. You don't want to overwhelm people. So yeah, and obviously you're always checking in because people can start one way and then over time, what they need changes, what they understand changes. So you don't want to just like check in once and then that's it. It's a continuous thing. Just like interpreting, I was always checking to make sure like you understand me, I understand you. Yeah. And it leads into this next point. Is this my, oh yeah. Yeah, this is the last point. So confusion. Uh, you want to prepare for confusion. Like no one, like I feel like we view confusion as like failure in communication. Um, but what I learned is that you try to prepare for it. It's gonna happen probably. Doesn't mean anyone failed. Just prepare for it so you can repair the like any communication breakdowns or any confusion. So, like for interpreting, I would research specific topics and concepts before any assignment. I had like specialized language. It was in a specialized situation like medical or specific classes if I was interpreting at a college. Um, and then let's see. And then even better was practicing like interpreting the topic myself. So like putting on a YouTube video and then interpreting and recording myself so I could like watch it back and give myself feedback to see like did what I thought was happening actually happen, and that way I could fix it before actually going to the assignment. Because yeah, that way it just helps me be better prepared for any, and then I could fix my own confusion, prepare for if there's any possible confusions that might have to be fixed on the job. So better just being better prepared. Let's see. Oh, hey, miss. Not much. Just talking about. You didn't miss much. Just talking about what accountants can learn from sign language interpreters. Because that's what my previous job was, and then communication is like it's a big deal in accounting, and I feel like I just keep seeing that it's a big deal, and there's people addressing it, but it needs to be addressed. And so for like this last point that I was going over, it's like anticipating confusion, especially with accounting. Like it's a hard topic, it's confusing. Most people like who are our clients aren't like going to school for accounting. They just kind of need to fix stuff. So what I do is like I prepare for like potential confusion by just like thinking like what most things people get confused about when I mention stuff to them. So like when I'm onboarding clients, I have like short, clear explanations of what I need from them why I need it, because I feel like that's really important. Like, if you just ask someone, "Hey, give me your receipts," and then, I don't know, like, they just give you a few, that's not as clear as if you explain why, like, short explanation, doesn't have to be a essay, but, like, why you need it, and also that you need to see all the numbers on it. It needs to be clear and legible. Like, yeah, like, you'd be surprised, sometimes you do have to say that. And so, let's see, what else did I put on here? Yeah, and then, like, no one's people aren't the same, so you might have to adjust how you explain things, especially if people get overwhelmed easily, which I get, like, that happens to me sometimes too. Definitely wanna have just clear, to the point explanations, and that's something I'm still working on. Uh, ChatGPT or AI can be really great for this, actually, if you just, like, dump in your explanation and then ask it, like, "Hey, like, condense this, explain it like I'm 5." And then after he gives his explanation, what I like to do is tell it, um, "Don't bury the lead." Like, get to the point, basically. Sometimes it takes a while to get to the point, and then that explanation can help you be better at explaining things. Let's see. And so, yeah, so that's it. A lot of this is just, like, how to prep for clear communication, like, beforehand, before you even talk to anybody, like, what can you do? Or, well, I guess you talk to the client, but, like, before you, like, really dive into, like, the the deep work, the whole project, what can you do? So, and it's really helpful. Like, I know it can seem like a lot, but just, like, a simple checklist and then updating that over time. Um, just, uh, just taking a few moments before actually meeting to think over, like, "Okay, what are we meeting for?" Or potential confusions that can happen. If you're gonna use any specific words, um, what do they mean? Like, what would be uh, like a non-accounting explanation of that word if you have to use it? And if you don't think you're gonna use any accounting words, maybe think over it, throw it into AI to see, and have AI tell you, like, what's jargon and what's something a non-accountant wouldn't understand. That might help. Uh, and yeah, just let's and if there's anything specific the client's worried about and that you're if you don't know a ton about it, then, like, looking that up on the internet just to get an idea of, like, what's, just more of an idea with of context, because that way you can better communicate. So, yeah, so that's it, just well, I don't say that's it. It's a lot, but, like, preparing helps so much, and then over time, especially if you're working with the same kind of people, kind of clients, all that prep just it compounds like interest. 'Cause then you don't need to prepare as much because you can just carry that info and experience with you, and yeah, it just makes things so much easier. So that's what accountants can learn from sign language interpreters. That's, like, part 1. Like I said, I wrote 2 more. So I had a lot to say on this topic, but it was fun just, like, distilling it down into, like, clear essay form. So like I said, I wouldn't say I'm the clearest at communicating. I'm not the best, but I do think I try to be empathetic and, like, slow it down enough so, like, people feel like they can say what they need to say or take the time they need. Yeah, because I know, like, for me, like, I feel like I have to do that for myself, talking to other people to create that structure and environment so that I actually can communicate. So, yeah, like, I have practice with it, and so I do try to bring that with me when talking to other people. So, yeah, that is it. Thanks for seeing this live today, and again, it was a lot longer than I thought it would be. I had a lot more to say than I thought. Alright, well, bye. Have a great afternoon.